Hey everyone! Today I just wanted to share with you my experience I had with a catheter ablation for SVT. First of all, I'm sorry I'm not a native speaker in English. I'm from Germany, and so I'm sorry for any mistakes or bad pronunciations or whatever, but I hope you'll forgive me. So right before my ablation, I found it very helpful to watch videos from people who have also experienced catheter ablation, and it gave me much hope, and I was a little bit less scared than before. So I just wanted to share my experience with the whole thing. At first, I can start with my journey with the condition SVT. My first attack I had 6.5 years ago in January 2010, and my first episode of SVT lasted for 7 to 8 hours. It was quite long for my first episode, and back then I didn't really know what it was. I just was feeling that my heart was pounding and racing, and it was this strange kind of racing feeling I didn't experience ever before. So I was pretty scared. I just woke up in the morning and my heart was just racing. I didn't know what was happening. But at first I thought maybe it was because I was very, very excited and very anxious because of this evening we had a show with our choir back then. And well, I went there and luckily it stopped before the show began. But I was very concerned because I didn't really know what this was. So shortly after that, I went to a cardiologist, and they examined me, and they said, well, you are healthy, you don't have anything physically or organically wrong with your heart, but they gave me a 24-hour monitor I had to wear, but they couldn't catch it because it didn't occur every day. So they gave me an event recorder, and with that I think I got it for like 3 weeks or so, and with that I could record one episode I got one night. And so they looked at the monitor, and they told me back then that it was IST. It's some other kind of arrhythmia. But they thought it wasn't SVT back then because my heart rate only went up to 140, 150 beats per minute, and they said back then, no, this is too low for a heart rate with SVT, so they didn't believe that it was SVT back then. And back then it wasn't that bad because my episodes didn't occur very frequently. I only had a short episode, every 3 or 4 months back then, but with time the frequency increased. So but in the beginning I wasn't that worried because it was so infrequent, and I didn't really pay much attention to my pulse or my heart, especially in the intervals where I didn't have any problems, where I didn't have any episodes, so it was okay back then. Well, already back then they told me that I could get it done with an ablation, but they thought that it wasn't really necessary back then. I didn't even have to take beta blockers, and but I just always had some beta blockers with me, like a pill in the box kind of thing, so that I could always take one if I had an episode I couldn't stop any other way. So well, back then it wasn't that bad, but as the years went on, the episodes became much more frequent and much more frightening because I still didn't really know what was going on. They just assumed that it was IST, but I thought, I don't really feel like IST because if I got it right, IST is more like a heightened sinus rhythm, and not just like this sudden racing of the heart. Like my heart went from 1 second to the other, it went from like 70, 80 to 150, and sometimes it just stopped as fast as it began. So I knew something was wrong, and 2 years ago actually I went to another cardiologist because I got more attacks, and this was a period of time where I was also very stressed out and worried, and there were some things going on in my private life, and I had been sick the weeks before that, so I was very concerned that maybe this has to do something with my heart, that something went wrong. So anyway, I was very worried, and this was the first time that a doctor told me that I might have SVT. Because he said, well, he looked at the monitor, at the ECG I had done 2010, where they got an episode on the monitor, and he told me that that he thinks it can be SVT because in his experience, SVT even occurs with heart rates lower than 140, what I had. So he again told me that I could get the ablation done to fix this, but back then I still didn't want to get the ablation done because I thought, well, I'm very stressed at the moment, I have some problems going on, maybe it will settle if I can relax a little bit more and if this difficult time goes by. But it didn't. Even though when I was very relaxed, I got episodes very frequently, and to the point that I got them almost every week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. And this was at the beginning of this year that I slowly started to think, well, maybe this ablation might be the right thing for me, but I still was very scared because I think it's completely understandable with 6.5 years of having this condition. You start to get some kind of heart phobia, or at least I did, and everything that was related, like a surgery on my heart, was just plain horrible to me, let alone this thought that they would go through my body with catheters and do something with like heat and electricity at my heart. It just freaked me out. So I really needed time to finally decide that I wanted to get it done. But at the beginning of the year, I noticed, well, I get episodes nearly every week, or sometimes in phases where I was very stressed, I got them like every day or every 2 or 3 days. So I finally decided in May, I think, that I wanted to get it done this year. At first, I thought that I would get it done in December because I thought, well, this might be better because it's not that warm outside, it's not that warm in my apartment, because here it's very warm when we have like 30 degrees outside. So, and I thought, well, then I will have winter holidays, I don't have to go to university, and I will just have plenty of time to recover after it. So I had an appointment with my cardiologist in July, middle of July, and he was telling me, well, he also thinks this is the right time now to get it done, because otherwise, if you don't treat SVT at the right time, it might become atrial fibrillation, which I didn't really want it to get. So I decided, well, I will get this done at this hospital. It's the Marcus Hospital here in Frankfurt. I can recommend them at any time. And I thought, well, I will make an appointment for December. So I got home and thought, okay, I will do this at the end of this year. Well, but then 10 days later, I had a very bad episode of SVT. I was waking up at 3:40 in the morning, and my heart just started racing out of nothing. From sleep, it started racing. I had another attack. And this wasn't actually the first time that it occurred just from sleeping, that I woke up and that I was in a full SVT attack. This wasn't the first time. But this time it was very concerning, because it went on for like 3 or 4 hours until 7 in the morning, that I always, I could stop it with a Valsalva maneuver, but then it came back. As soon as I lay down, it came back, like after 1 or 2 minutes, so I wasn't really able to sleep at all. And if you are lying in your bed awake the whole night, you have plenty of time to think. So I decided in these hours that it might be a good idea to get the ablation done much sooner than in December this year. Yeah, so I finally decided on this day, I think it was the 26th of July, that I will finally get the ablation done. So unfortunately I had to cancel my vacations with a friend because let alone only the thought of going on an airplane or being in a foreign country 1 week in this condition, where I get episodes like every day or even multiple times a day, this was just plain, it was so frightening. I panicked only by thinking about this. So I decided that I want to get it done right now. So I called the hospital, and luckily they had an appointment for me 1 week later on Friday, on the 5th of August, which is now 4 weeks ago. So it was a very hard decision, some kind of, because on this day where I decided to finally get it done, I cried so much. I cried for different reasons. I cried because I was scared of the procedure. I cried partly because I was some kind of relief, because I knew that there will be finally done something about it. I was crying because I was scared that it wouldn't work and that I would still have to deal with this. I cried because I was so moved, because all my friends were so sweet and they already told me, we will visit you at hospital and we will be there for you. And I was a mess on this day. Luckily, I didn't really have to wait much longer until my appointment. So yeah, 4 weeks ago, Friday 4 weeks ago, I had my appointment, and I have to say, I was so nervous and anxious. I can't put it into words. I had another surgery last year, a shoulder surgery, and I thought I was nervous back then. No way. This was nothing in comparison to how I felt right before my ablation. I didn't sleep the night before my ablation because I was so scared and anxious, and I was just a mess. The hours before my appointment, I was a mess. But let me tell you how it went, so it might be a little bit more positive in the outcome. So I went there in the morning. I should be there at 8, and I had to wait a little bit until they called me in, and then I had some tests, a blood test and ECG and just the normal things, I guess. And then they told me, well, luckily you don't have to wait any longer. You don't really have to go to your room first. You can come with us and soon you will get the ablation. And I was okay. This is gonna get real. And I was so scared. My mother went with me, and at the point where I had to leave her, I was freaking out. I also asked the nurses and everyone if they could give me some kind of sedation right before the ablation. They said, it's difficult because maybe then it will be hard to provoke the SVT when you are sedated during the ablation and the EP study. So I just had to go through this, and I really was at the verge of freaking out because I was waiting there in some kind of waiting room. I already had to say goodbye to my mother, and she had all my things, my phone, like everything. I couldn't really distract myself, and I was lying there in a bed, and next to me there was a woman. I heard that the heart was out of rhythm, and they had to get it back to the normal rhythm with electroshocks, and I heard everything. And as you can imagine, as a person with some kind of heart phobia, this is like the worst thing that can happen to you just before an ablation, because it was so, oh my god, I just want the sedation. This was my only thought. I just want to survive until the sedation when I don't feel anything anymore. But I also survived this, so luckily, like 1.5 hours later, they finally brought me into the room where the ablation has taken place, and they propped me up at the table, and they gave me the sedation, And even before I could answer the question, do you already feel anything? I couldn't even answer with yes or no, because then I was completely out. I heard that some people weren't really completely under. I heard some people had some kind of twilight sedation where you don't feel any pain, and where you don't care at all what is happening to you, but where you are still some kind of conscious. And I was very glad that I didn't know and didn't feel and didn't notice anything they were doing to me. So back then I woke up halfway to my room, and then I think the worst part of the ablation started for me, but because actually the worst thing about the ablation for me was, well, physically the worst part was the lying flat on my back for 6 hours or 4 hours. I think it was 4 hours, the lying, or 6, I don't know, some hours. Between 4 or 6 hours I had to lay flat on my back, because otherwise the wound on my groin, it would have started bleeding, and this is normal for ablation or for any kind of EP study with catheters. So this is what was the worst part, because after 1 hour I had to go to the toilet so bad, but nothing could be done. I wasn't allowed to stand up. In the hospital they have this kind of bed pans, I don't know, but this didn't work for me. No. So I had to survive until I was able to stand up again. But other than that, I didn't really have any pain. I didn't really have any pain in my heart area. I just had for the first 2 or 3 days some little stitches, but nothing bad. The worst part for me, or the hardest part for me, was actually the mental part, because even when my doctor came in and he told me everything went great, they could make out relatively clear where the slow pathway on my heart was. They caused the SVT and they got it, and I have a chance of 98% that it will never come again. So unfortunately I wasn't really that released as I would have wished to be at the first time when I heard this, because it still felt some kind of, this is too good to be true, this can be true. I have had this condition for 6.5 years, and with just this short kind of surgery, it is gone. It was really hard to believe for me. So the days at the hospital were a little bit hard for me mentally, not physically, but more mentally, because I was still very anxious and very nervous, and I didn't really sleep well at the hospital. I was still constantly hearing what my heart was doing. I had some palpitations, and I had some ectopic beats, some skip beats, which freaked me out because before the ablation, this was mostly the part where my heart started to go in SVT from a skip beat or anything like this. So it was hard to believe that it won't happen again. But when I was able to go home, I had to stay there for 2 nights, and then I was able to go home on Sunday morning, which was quite good. And as soon as I went home, I was able to relax a little bit more. I calmed down, and I still wasn't allowed to do much in the first 10 days. No lifting, no bending, no physically hard working thingy, no sports, whatever. So I just relaxed for the next 10 days. And yeah, this is 4 weeks ago. And I have to say, in the first few weeks, I especially had some good and bad days. I still sometimes have like bad moments or hours where I still am very concerned, and where I'm hearing what my heart is doing, where I'm feeling my pulse, or paying attention to how fast or slow or whatever my heart is beating. But I think it's normal, because we are so trained to do this. When you are having SVT for like 6.5 years, how I had it, it's reality for us. just normal for us to always feel our heart beating, or at least in my case it was the new reality I had. So just now I'm slowly realizing how much SVT had affected my daily life, because when I'm thinking about it, I wasn't really able to enjoy things to 100% in the last few years, because I was always worried, oh my god, how is my heart beating? Oh my god, what if I get another attack right now? I didn't really allow myself to fully enjoy things, because I always thought, okay, if I'm too happy about something and then my heart rate increases, and then what is if there is another SVT attack or whatever. So it's really bad how it affected my daily life, and I just now realize how bad it was. So yeah, it was hard for me, but I think it's normal. I think you should give yourself time, even after ablation where the doctors tell you that it was successful. You need time. It's completely normal that you can't just flip a switch, like, okay, you were worried about your heart rate for 6.5 years, every day, like every second. It's normal that you can't just flip a switch to turn it off and be, okay, I don't care anymore. Don't be scared. It's completely normal. You don't have to get this done in 1 or 2 weeks or whatever. Many people are telling me that they needed some months or even half a year until they finally could calm down and didn't really pay attention to their heart every day. So yeah, sometimes I have bad days or bad nights where I still pay much attention to my heart, and I had some kind of ghost flutters where my heart was beating very fast for like 5 seconds, and I was so sure that I was about to get another SVT attack, but luckily nothing happens. You really have to learn that in the situations where you formerly got SVT attacks, that nothing happens, and as the more you experience this positive situations where nothing happens, I think the more you can calm down. But it's a process, it takes time. So luckily I'm now 4 weeks post-ablation, and I didn't have any SVT attack since then, which is very good, because the weeks before my ablation I had attacks nearly every day, or sometimes multiple times a day. So I don't really remember the last time where I didn't have an SVT attack for 4 weeks in a row, so this is very good. It's not a 100% insurance that you will never get SVT again, but they told me that like for 98% I'm cured, and I hope that this will stay successful and that I won't ever have to deal with it again. So for the first 2 or 3 months they also told me that it was quite normal to have some kind of palpitations or ectopic beats, skip beats, and some stitches, but with the stitches I only had stitches 2 or 3 days after the ablation and nothing more. So it's completely normal if your heart is beating a little bit funny or weird in the first months. This is nothing to worry about. This isn't a sign that your SVT will come back. But so far so good. I think if it turns out to stay this successful, my ablation, this might have been the best decision I've ever made in my life, because I'm still not 100% trusting that it won't come back, but I'm slowly getting there, and I'm slowly getting to my life back, if you want to say so. And this is a good feeling. I think I can now enjoy things more. I can enjoy time with my friends without always constantly checking my pulse or hearing what my heart is doing. So I hope this turns out to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. And if this is the case, I think my only regret about the ablation would have been that I didn't have it done much sooner. So all in all, my experience was very positive with the ablation. I hope it stays that way, and I hope that I might have helped someone who is also getting through this decision phase where you are not sure if you want to do the ablation or not. I can just speak for myself. I had SVT, this typical AV NRT, SVT, the most common type where they have to ablate the slow pathway of your heart. So yeah, and if you have any questions regarding the ablation or my story or anything, if you just have any questions for me, please feel free to comment down below and let me know, and I will answer as soon as I can. And yeah, I hope that you will have a wonderful day, and I will hear from you soon. Bye!